Good afternoon. Welcome back to Lest We Forget Historical with your host, Lillian Caldwell. Heard on Passionate World Talk Radio Network. Educate, enlighten, entertain. And today we're starting a mini-series about money and U.S. politics. But don't kid yourself, folks. We're not the only nation where money is used to influence and control how our political arena will turn out. And before you start pointing fingers and saying it all started back in the 20th century, I have very bad news for you. It started when our nation was conceived in liberty, dedicated to the principles that all men and women are created equal. And you're going to say, really? Politics in our young republic? Well, the founding fathers of our country were neither above nor below the laws they wanted to enact after being under the realm of kings in England. They decided to base their government on Mr. Locke and his principles. Because if they went by the principles of the Roman Republic, which we seem to be always compared to in terms of how quickly we lost our republic and our freedoms, it does make one wonder why they decided to take that path. So let us go down to the year 1789, when George Washington was running for president, the first president of the United States. And what did he do? He influenced his voters, which at that time were all men, white men. Everybody else was excluded, dogs, cats, pets, women, children, slaves, indigenous people, and the poor. They couldn't have the poor because the poor were poorly educated. So George Washington viewed selecting and getting his votes as a form of fundraising, which in those days was a foreign concept, but today everybody's doing it. So what did they do? He offered rum punch, ginger cookies, and some snacks prepared by his black cooks, no doubt, who were told to prepare the very best for the people who were going to vote him into office. See, now you can put that next to the myth about chopping down the cherry tree. But this one is true. In 1822, Andrew Jackson, the first presidential candidate without a prestigious background like that of John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, he improved the campaign way of getting votes in from his peers, and he enlisted local support. Kind of reminds you of somebody in the 21st century appealing to the masses, peer-to-peer, to help them get what they so desire. And as long as they don't get caught, and as long as they win, it's okay with the popular cultural and social approval rating. And he harnessed the media power there were newspapers in those days which he could put in positive comments about who he was, what he represented, and what he could do for the people who voted him in, his target group, so to speak. But he did reward those people who voted him with positions in his administration. And that still happens today, doesn't it? And then in 1867, Congress enacted the first federal campaign finance law, prohibiting government officers from soliciting campaign funds from naval yard workers. I wonder why they didn't include the military in that. However, in 1883, the Civil Service Reform Act aimed to curb political patronage. It prohibited positions from being filled based on political ties or party affiliations, emphasizing merit-based appointments. Well, you can't say that is true about today now, can you? In the 20th century, the elections increasingly relied on public financing, but there was still abuse. In 2012, over $6 billion was spent on the presidential election, including substantial dark money from politically active 501c groups. Now, they tell me that in the 18th century, while money didn't play a major role, wealth dominated politics. Guess what, folks? It still does. Electorates were small, and campaigns as we know them today did not exist. So, the next time you try to figure out where all this political equals money spending came from, you can thank our forefathers for thinking up how to get people to the polls and vote. Vote for the candidate of your choice, even if there's only one person running, but vote. Next week, we will go and delve how money affects elections. You can see this podcast all over again on youtube.com/PWR Network, PW Talk Radio, on passionateworldtalkradio.com/blogs. And you can also hear the audio on our Facebook.com/Passionate World Radio, LinkedIn.com/Lillian Caldwell, and all the other major social media directories. Thank you very much for listening, and please come back next week to listen how political and money equals getting elected to whatever office in the U.S. you want. Have a great day.